Welcome back to the Tavern, friends. Before you recruit some new minions for the battle, let me welcome you to episode 14 of Tavern Tales. I am your host, Tumbly Drunk, and tonight we'll be taking a look at the nerf to Millhouse Manastorm, who has been on the rise and fall in regards to the hero tiers. And of course, we will be picking two, between two heroes in regards to, one of our newer segments as we pit Edwin Van Cleef up against, pure chaos of Yogg Saron. So before we get into the news and introduce you to my co-host, I just want to take a quick moment to thank everyone who is joining us tonight in the tavern for our live show, and of course to thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host, Edinar and Ed. The Millhouse nerf has happened. We've had some kind of like intriguing results in regards to, maybe a couple of heroes that have snuck into some certain tiers that we would not initially expect. But, in regards to whether or not we found the middle ground, since, we've had Millhouse on the very bottom and then Millhouse on the very top, that is not actually the case. But, just looking back, how's this week been treating you?
It's been going, eh,
Eh?
eh. I played with you and I got absolute hosed. Couldn't get a triple to save my life.
Yeah, it was a bad strain for sure.
Oh God, it was brutal. Um, so yeah, it is not ideal for me right now. I was able to climb back up quite a lot.
Okay.
Um, not a lot, but back to what I was at. Um, so there's that, which is nice. Other than that, it's just kind of been, you know, here or there. I'm waiting for the not Overwatch patch, the NFL draft to start. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
And by kind of excited, I mean extremely excited for it. Extremely
Yeah,
excited
we'll,
for it.
we'll we'll see how many things go wrong in regards to tech and production.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be a shit show. It's gonna be horrible, and I love it.
Yeah, get your popcorn at the ready.
Mm-hmm. Get popcorn at the ready, because the owner slash GM of the Cowboys is not allowing his staff to call him during the draft while he's making the decisions. So he's not even talking to his scouts about the players he's drafting. Uh, so yeah, that's fun. And what's funny is one of the scouts is his son. So his son is not allowed to call dad. So RIP you Cowboy fans out there. Um, I've been back into WoW. I've been playing a lot. The leveling boost and the rep boost has been awesome. So, yeah, but other than that, not a whole lot.
Yeah,
How's your week been?
it's been better. I mean, if we're just saying for comparison's sakes, I have been kind of like splitting my time again on like the non-perk account as well as the primary account. So like on my main account, I kind of basically like started around like 6140. I gained a little bit. I got as high as 6292, and then something happened where I was playing Deathwing, and I'll talk about the full story and how that went, but I ended up dropping 98 rated in that particular match. So I'm now back down to 6194 going into the show tonight. So still a net gain, since our last episode. And, on the alt account, I actually made some fairly good progress. So I started the week at 5881. We had I had like a 5 game stream this past week when you and I were doing duo queues. And like the hero options I got were all over the place. It was mostly like tier 3, tier 4 options, but when I did get a good hero, I made the most of it and got like top 4 finishes or a lobby win, which I want to say was with Flurgle. So, of course, going all in on Murlocs in that case, but, you have another Flurgle story for later. But
Oh yeah, no,
anyways,
no, no. That's coming up later.
so that went good, and I actually hit 6K rating on the alt account, where I only have 2 hero options. So to end the week, I got up to 60-22. So I've effectively hit my goal to hit 6K rating. Now on both accounts, regardless of if I had 2 hero options or 4 hero options, and I'm pretty happy with that because I did not think that I would continue to climb kind of like week to week on that account, just knowing that I have to basically work with what I'm given, and what I've been given isn't necessarily always that great. So, for people that play on an account that doesn't have the perks, it is possible to climb, but, it's definitely not as fun as always having, for the most part, at least one solid option across the board in that case. But I've still been enjoying it. But really, I haven't had a chance to check out New House for Millhouse. I've seen how the others have been faring in the lobby. And for the most part, from what I've seen, it's not that great. So the Millhouse Manastorm nerf is live. And this is something that we're hinted at, but we didn't know how they were going to go about nerfing the hero power. And, in prior weeks, we'd basically seen Millhouse Manastorm sitting atop the tier rankings as the only tier 1 hero if you're looking at the HS Replay Battlegrounds tier list. You had, a couple of other, really good options that were in tier 2. Like Reform and Deathwing and Van Cleef, heroes like that. But the change that they made was interesting. So we basically went from the old hero power of 2s being a wild, so your minions would cost 2 gold, your refresh would cost 2 gold, and then you would start at 3 gold. And then they changed it where all of that is the same except for one element, and that is that the tavern tier cost has been increased by 1 gold. So if you're wondering, how are the stats looking right now? So we basically went from Millhouse having an average finish placement of 3.89 and a 70.9% pick rate, both of which at the time were the highest in regards to the available hero pool. To, at that point, he was the only one who would finish with a higher average placement, better than 4th, to now having an average placement of 4.58, and the pick rate has dropped, pretty significantly at 49.9%. But right now, he's like smack dab in the middle of tier 3, along the likes of heroes like Maligos and Queen Wagtoggle.
That is not a place you want to be. uh it's pretty ugly. It's this I only think that he dropped to the middle of the pack because people aren't quite sure that he got nerfed. And are like, "Oh yeah, no, he's awesome. Let's pick him." And then they lose.
Mm-hmm.
Um it's just you don't realize it, but it's a drastic change. It
It's
is a super drastic
it's
change.
more exaggerated when you start talking about the later rounds in the game. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's as big in the early game because you can still kind of get that board presence.
Yeah.
But after like say Tavern 3, that's really when you start to fall further and further behind, knowing that you just aren't really able to keep pace with the scaling that is happening throughout the lobby at that point.
Exactly. Like you don't know. Like you can have a good early game. Millhouse, that's always been a thing with Millhouse, even pre-nerf. You get a pretty decent early game. And you know what? It's not going to be the be all end all with it. Like what I mean by that is you have the good early game, but there is good early game that turns into good late game. He just sucks at late game. In like he's the kind of guy who is going to basically screw you. Everyone has been in those matches when you're in first place for the first 6 rounds, no one's touched you, and then somebody gets a good like somebody actually performs well, and they do like 18 damage to you, and then just roll you over, and then it's just downhill from you. That is essentially what Millhouse is like at this point. I'm still not sold on him being viable. I can't see it. He's just so bad. I don't know. Am I losing my mind? You've played him a good amount.
Yeah, well, I haven't played him in New House as of yet. I haven't had him as a hero option on either account.
Okay, I've played him twice.
Okay.
And it is the most awkward thing trying to level up. Like it's the type of character where you have to completely change how you think of the game just for one hero. And it's not for the betterment like it was with the old Millhouse. This is more okay, to try and build up my board. Oh wait, no, I don't have that choice because I can't even level up at this point.
Yeah, I do want to talk about like the Tavern breakpoints with the changes here in a minute. But I was taking some time to like kind of look back at what the placement curve was in regards to his prior iteration, and then comparing that to how he's doing so far in the number of games that we have seen from him. So when you look at the old version, with starting at 3 gold, refresh, and minions cost 2 gold, you had a first place finish of 19.37, and then it slowly kind of like trickled down. So like second was at 14.8, then 13.13, 12.97. But then you look at like 8th place, where he was actually the lowest across the board for all the heroes, and his 8th place finish rate was only 6.65%. So when you look at that, the differential between like top and the bottom in the lobby was the biggest gap out of anyone that was available to play. And the only like hero at the time who had a higher first place finish was Flurgle, which we've talked about pretty much every week is the biggest 50-50 hero in regards to Battlegrounds, because it is a gamble. But chances are it could work out, unless unforeseen circumstances hit you and Celestalon just says no.
Right. Celestalon's like, get the hell back inside.
So we've basically seen this drop of 0.7 average placement between this past iteration and New House. And I will say, like, it wasn't as big of a jump as, say, the last change we saw out of Millhouse, where he went from worst to first. But it was still pretty massive compared to other like hero changes that we have seen in recent balance updates. So I was looking at like the average placements, and when we're talking about the old version of Millhouse, the closest people that we could compare him to at the time were like Nasdormu, Daryl, and Deathwing, who were like maybe like 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 placement at the most behind him. And then, you look at how he's doing right now, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna like even shrink that differential of average placement. Let's just set it at point 0.1 of
Mm-hmm.
where he's sitting right now. And I was adding up all of the heroes that were within striking distance of him, where before he was just practically untouchable. And right now, Millhouse has 13 heroes that are within point 0.1 of where he is placing on average right now. And that, to me, speaks volumes about just how much of a change this actually is.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the most staggering stat I've seen is his per turn win rate.
Okay.
And it's different than everyone else. So obviously, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, you're gonna generally win, plain and simple,
Mm-hmm.
because you can just buy more heroes, especially turn 2. If you're not winning turn 2, then you're doing something wrong. Let's just go with that right off the bat. But then in turn 6, you basically have a below 50% win rate to
Yikes.
turn 12. So between 6 and 12, you have a below 50% win rate of winning that round with him. And then at turn 13, you get your next, it goes up to 52% win rate. So just above it. Now you're like, okay, well, he sucks. Let's take another one for example. Let's I would look at Professor Putricide, but well, Putricide doesn't have enough stats yet.
No one has picked him since the patch.
So let's look at Illidan. Okay, Illidan turn 6 win rate. Same turn 7, same turn 8, and then it starts to creep up above 50, above 50, above 50, above 50. So it has like 3 turns right there in the middle where you're basically right there, but Millhouse goes for another 4 levels after that. And that's where the issue is. Like you if you're dead, if you can't win between 6 and 12, you're done for. You're just done for. Like you could have the best early game, but you're just done for. And that is what is going on. Like, now let's look at the top.
So
Daryl has turn 9 a 65% win.
essentially, at that point, then you're vying for fourth. Is
Yeah.
truly what your goal is. Not for a lobby win, but to just sneak in the top 4.
Yeah, basically. Once you hit turn 6, your goal is to just survive long enough for a top 4.
Mm-hmm. That's even assuming you get to 6.
Yeah. Which is not a guaranteed thing at this point.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the tavern breakpoints that we are seeing most frequently. So old Millhouse could tier up fairly aggressively. Just looking at common tier breakpoints for the players that are finishing first in their lobbies. You were looking at obviously going to Tavern 2 on 3, and then 3 on 5, 4 on 6, 5 on 8. Now, the tier up breakpoints have seen some adjustments with the nerf to Millhouse, where it seems to be most effective for you to tier up every other turn. So you're talking turn 3, 5, 7, 9, and hopefully you're not falling too far behind at that point. But the problem is, once you get to Tavern 3, that's basically when, the wheels start to come off and you start falling behind. So that's really like this point of no return for Millhouse. So early on, you're still able to fill your board with some decent stats in the early game, but you're not able to really spam those tavern upgrades all the way to 6 like you could in his prior iteration. So it kind of like leaves you with this decision of, well, you either sell a weak minion or you have to wait that additional turn in order to Tavern up, both of which are going to have their own drawbacks because you either, you know, Tavern up and be like, okay, well, maybe next turn I'll make the most of it, but then you're falling behind on just board state because you don't have 7 minions at that point. Or you're leaving your board weaker, and then you're effectively still a turn behind the opposition at that point. So it's just like it's one of those things where it's like, man, you better hope you don't take like a big swing once you get to 3. Otherwise, like there's probably no recovering anymore.
I did it again. Muted. Uh, yeah, there is no recovering at that point. Now will I say this? I think Millhouse is gonna go down to bottom tier? No, like he's not gonna be on Putricide, Galakron, Lich level of bad. But I think bottom of tier 3 is probably where he's gonna end up at.
Okay.
Which you know what is something where I think everyone probably is okay with. I like sometimes you just want to see the good cards burn. like,
Okay, Deathwing.
like they can't all be really good. So it's good. We don't have any S tier heroes now, which is definitely a good thing.
Well, I mean, I would say we don't have any SS tiers. I feel like S tier is still a thing because that would technically still be tier 1.
Well, yeah.
And,
I mean, I get that.
yeah.
But I just don't think it's I don't know. I don't think it's really worth it.
Yeah, there's really like no drastic cutoff between first and second.
If you ain't first, you're last. Ricky Bobby.
Yeah.
2010. I don't know. It probably came out before 2010. But probably did.
It was like 2006. I'm pretty sure.
So you know what? Whatever. Let's go to Applebee's.
It is what it is.
Let's go get kicked out of an Applebee's.
Absolutely. So let's take a quick look, really, like here. So in regards to post patch reflections on where the heroes currently sit amongst the tiers. As I said, like we actually have some intriguing results in here. Some definite eyebrow raisers for sure. So basically, all of those heroes that were playing second fiddle to Millhouse of old, back up, right? Like, obviously, they overtook Millhouse at this point. So you're looking at heroes like Dancing Daryl, Nosdormu, Deathwing, Archvillain Rafam, Yogg-Saron, Edwin Van Cleef, and Pyramid? What?
Like, and it kind of goes without saying is the number one like class for Pyramid is Murlocs. And the reason that like it's so good with them is because, well, let's be real, the weakest part about them is the fact that they have no health.
I will say in the games that I've played with Pyramid that I haven't felt tied down to any one particular tribe. Early game, just having that excess health on your minions can definitely like push you into the mid game no problem. So even something like a micro machine that you just buff up, you get the +4 health, and then his attack starts to get increased with each level. Like a micro machine can really carry you in those earlier games. Same with really like any beefier minion. It works really good with like Wrathweaver in the early game, as well, just because that also will scale whenever you summon a demon at that point. So like if we're talking like strong early game like heroes, Pyramid is definitely in the discussion there, but I just thought it was interesting that we're starting to see him fall in line with a lot of heroes that we always just consider to be at least another step up, the ladder compared to him. So it's like it's a nice change and one that I would not have expected. But there's a couple of others that are definitely kind of like in similar line when we talk about some of the tier 2 options out there.
Oh, for sure. I like I don't know. It's I'm not surprised it's super high up because, like you said, being able to put 4 health on something so early is huge, especially for murlocs or demons. Really, anything.
Mhm.
Um, it's huge, but I'm just not seeing it as a massive boom.
Mhm.
Like to the point where it's in the same sentence as Rafam, Deathwing, Norzdomu, Vank. You know what I mean? Like they're just not the same.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I cannot really imagine an instance where I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, let's go Pyramid here.
Mm-hmm. But the nice thing with Pyramid is it's one of those, like, there's a reason that these specific heroes are so always up there is because they don't deal with any specific class. It always just benefits all your cards.
Mhm.
Um, and that's what prevents it from being tier 2, tier 3 is give your Murlocs plus whatever health, or just give mechs or anything like that. So I haven't tested Pyramid too much, but I mean, next time I see him up, I'm probably going to take him, just because, you know what, I want to test it out, because Murlocs are still fun, and if you can give them more health, that's even better.
Yeah. I would still say take the Micro Machine, though, turn 1.
Yeah.
That's just me, though. Just because I find that has scaled better in most cases. So looking at the tier below, so talking about tier 2 minions according to HS Replay, actually quite a few in here. So we're looking at Infinite Toki, Alex Straza, Sir Finley, Elise Starseeker, Jiraxis, George, Ysera, Curator, Maleficent, Manastorm, and Ratcane. Now, Ed, like, the one that stood out to me probably more than any was Sir Finley being towards the top of tier 2. And it's more so just the fact that, well, you don't really know what hero power options you're going to be getting with him. So even like if you compare, like, okay, let's look at how many heroes are above him in regards to tiers. The majority are lower than where he sits right now. So it's very polarizing to me
Mm-hmm.
that Sir Finley is actually that high up. And it's one of those heroes that, depending on what hero power you decide to choose, obviously that is going to dictate, what your tavern tier breakpoints are going to be, or what tribe you're going to be looking for. Things like that. But, there's not even 10 heroes that are above him and a whole bunch that are below him. So I was just like, I don't get it. Like, why is Finley that high up?
I think because, I mean, if it made you choose, I, uh, so I think if it made you choose before it reveals who everyone else is, it might be a tad bit lower. Might be, but yeah, it just seems weird. Now, granted, you do have 3 options when it comes up. So the
Mhm.
likelihood that you have one of the heroes that's better than Sir Finley, at least on this, is high. Um, so yeah, I guess that's what it is. It just has so much like wiggle room, I guess you could say. I'm not a fan of Sir Finley, just because it's a little too RNG for me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me.
Yeah, and it turns out like still being able to tavern up and get a minion from the next tier up, still pretty good. So Toki being that high up, really not a surprise. But was there really like any other standouts to you? Because I think another one for me was at least Starseeker. And so part of that's just because, like, well, obviously you get like the recruitment map whenever you decide to tavern up. But I don't know if it's necessarily just the fact that it guarantees you're to get something from that new tier, where chances are it just outweighs the probability of what minions you're seeing in Bob's Tavern at that point. But it's like another character that like I never really considered to be at like that power level.
No, and I don't think it is either. Now, we're looking at this from the current patch.
Right.
So this is 2 days worth of stats. I think by next week we will have a whole different meta. Where these Elite Star Seekers probably falls a little. Do I think Lord Jaraxxus is a top 10 hero? No, I do not. Do I think AFK is tier 3? Nope, I don't think that as well. So I think we're gonna see some pretty drastic switches, but the Elise one, I've never liked Elise because I don't like a hero power that you have to spend gold on.
Mm-hmm.
Not that spending gold is bad. It's like you have to spend it twice to use this. So you upgrade with gold, and then you have to use uh gold to play the card.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken. It's
Yeah.
been a while since
It's
I
3.
played her. Yeah, it's 3 gold. So you're upgraded, and then you have to play more gold to activate the ability. And that has always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So
I get that.
yeah, I mean, it is what it is. The one that probably surprised me the most is Alex Straza.
Okay.
Just because Alex Straza is it's the highest when you talk about specific, like, okay, we are going to have a hero power that targets just specifically one type of minion. Alex Straza is not the one that screams this is going to be the highest one. Just because you not only have to race to tier 5, you have to play dragons.
More times than not, no one actually finishes with dragons. With Alex.
Yeah. But I had a game where I played Alex Straza, and at tier 5 I hit the nuts. Like, I just had the most ridiculous round. So I mean, I'm not gonna say it's horrible, but I had to hit the nuts to just win. And it is what it is. Like, I don't think it's gonna be that high come next show.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. So that's the one I think was the most surprising.
All right.
Elise would have been my second choice.
Yeah. So outside of that, like I don't want to keep going over like every tier. But like if I'm talking about, movement, that another one that really stood out to me was the fact that Fungalmancer Flurgle officially out of tier 4.
Screw that guy.
He is he's bottom tier 3, but he edges out Nefarian in that regard. So he's managed to claw his way out for the first time since his introduction to Battlegrounds. Obviously, you're not feeling it due to some celestial dragon deciding to, just ruin your day in that regard. But
Mhm.
outside of that, like, Future Side's still holding down that bottom spot. I'm waiting, dev team, like, make the malleable goo change happen. Like, we need to see something, because he's not gonna get any higher, and he can't go lower, because he's already the worst case scenario out of the hero pool.
He doesn't even have enough games played to register stats.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah, Professor Putricide, you need to go real quickly.
Get back in the lab, work on some new vials, throw goo at, the opposition.
Goo? Is
Yeah.
that what you want to go with, goo?
Well, his ability is malleable goo. That's literally what he does.
Guess.
But anyways, let's go ahead and shift gears and talk about some unfortunate events that happened this week. Now, I will say I did get a response from one of our listeners on Twitter about something that happened in their Battleground game, but it wouldn't be a week without finding one or really multiple things that we need to blame on game designer Celeste Salon. This is going to be something that we do every week, because chances are, 100% of the time, we're not going to have perfect weeks. And you're bound to have RNG bite you in the ass at some point in time. And Ed, I had a couple of different options that I was weighing for this week's Blame Celestalon moment for me. Initially,
Okay.
I was thinking back about that game that we played in our dual queue, where my options at the time were Lich Bazial and Galakron. And, I told you, like, I don't even think I have 3 games on either of these heroes, let alone collectively between the two. And I was like, I didn't feel good about either option. I went with Bazial, got 6. So I'm like, it wasn't, like, as bad as I was expecting, but I had no idea what the F I was doing there.
Fair.
Then, I had a game where, at like 4 or 5 rounds in a row, where I lost a 50-50 chance to actually, like, tie for the round. And I didn't. I lost that many in a row, and I was like, you gotta be flipping kidding me. And I was like, okay, like, that one was pretty bad. And then I ended the week where I dropped 98 rating on my main account with Deathwing. And
Like the auto win. Like auto top 4 character.
for the most part, so this is basically what happened. So I started with the token drop. I was like, okay, great. I'm definitely gonna win this round, and I did. Then the wheels fell off essentially. So I opted to upgrade to Tavern too early. In most cases, because one, I'm looking for Rat Pack to carry me so I could aggressively Tavern up. And should I find one, I would definitely jump up fairly quickly there. The problem is, Ed, that Rat Pack didn't happen. What did happen is I basically had 4 consecutive rounds where my opponent had a Rat Pack, and I lost every single one of them because of that. And then before I know it, I'm down to like 15, 16 health at the time at that point. And I was like, all right, like, I gotta try to make do. So I managed to find a couple of Death Rattle minions. Obviously, none of them are going to be as strong as Rat Pack, just due to the fact that, it would spawn more minions and finalize more kills in that regard. So that didn't happen. So this is what I ended up with. I had a Mecharoo, which is that one drop that is a 1 of 1 that summons a 1 of 1 mech when it dies. I had a Harvest Golem, and then a Kindly Grandmother. And that was the only minion that I was able to triple in that game, was the Grandmother, which isn't a great card to begin with. And then, like, sure, I managed to, like, find a Deflectobot or 2 along the way. But they were dying before my death rattles were actually hidden, so my refreshes were never actually happening, so I wasn't getting Divine Shield back on those. And I ended up getting 8th place. I lost 98 rating. And I was looking at the stats of my warband when I lost, and nothing on my board had higher than 7 attack or higher than 6 health. It was brutal. I was like, oh, Jesus. It was bad.
Yeah, I actually remember that match because like we played each other in that one. Like, well, we didn't play each other, but you know what I mean. We played against each other. It was not pretty for you. I will say that. But you still did good that night, so you at least had that.
Mm-hmm.
But you still need to blame Celeste a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, that never fails.
Yeah, like that's mandatory to blame him. So let's just get that out of the way. I was going to talk about one of my matches from that night where I was playing Millhouse pre-nerf and I couldn't get a triple to save my life, and I basically was just screwed the entire time. But then after work tonight, I log on to play a game. And I had 4 choices, and none of them were good. I had Lich, Putricide, Flurgle, and who was the last one? Somebody else in tier 3. I think I want to say it was Malagos. No, it was Patchwork. So I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna go Flurgle. Play Flurgle. Turn 1, didn't get the token. I'm like, whatever. That's just a random draw. Turn 2, no other Murlocs show up. So I'm like, all right, screw this. I'm gonna upgrade. Turn 3, refresh. No Murlocs. Refresh again. No Murlocs. So I'm going into turn 4, no Murlocs. Turn 4 comes. No Murlocs. Turn 5 comes. No Murlocs. Turn 6 comes. Yeah, no Murlocs.
Yeah, at that point, you just concede.
And then I'm like, I'm just gonna go demons. So here I am as Flurgle playing demons because I have not seen one flipping Murloc show up on my board. And I'm like, Celestalon, why do you hate me so? Because all I can assume is that you hate me at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only logical choice.
Well, see, here's the thing, Ed. We talk about that 50-50. They were still ensuring that you were going to finish either 1st or 8th. It was just one of the more unconventional ways of going about doing that.
Okay.
It's still a dick thing to do, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Come on, Celestalon. This is all your fault that I didn't get any GD Murlocs.
And at that point, though, it probably would have been too late to kind of, right the ship at that point.
Yeah, because, to make Flurgle work, you have to go Murlocs. You just do. If you're not going to go Murlocs with Flurgle, you have to make that decision, turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it's just, so it was pretty brutal. Needless to say, I took 8th place. And
working as intended. 50-50.
Working as intended. So that is my blame Celestalon moment.
So other than that, we did have a response from Major Look, who tweeted at us that she had a curator game earlier where a Rafam managed to snipe her amalgam. So Rafam stole the amalgam and ended up knocking her out of the game with it in a later round. I've definitely had that happen too. I didn't get knocked out by it, but if it's early on and Rafam ends up taking your amalgam and just keeps buffing it, of course, the entirety of the game, that is an absolute abysmal feeling. Just because Sure, you could try to play around it, but let's say whatever you had on the far left doesn't die first. Well, then you're too susceptible at that point, and it's that's a rough feeling for sure. I don't know. Have you had that happen, Ed? You muted, by the way.
Ah, crap on a cracker. Yes, I have had that happen. And shut up. Just because I was muted. Sorry. But yeah, no, I've been. Now, this was back when I've had as Rafam. Like, all right, I haven't had Rafam steal my amalgam 3 times, but I have stolen someone's amalgam 3 times. But this was back in the day when Murlocs were so prevalent and Curator was so much better because Murloc Buffy, like it was Murloc, it could get all the same buffs, and it was like a vital part of it. Now, Curator is not as good because you don't have like it can't get buffed up as one of the best cards like in Demon. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't have the same effect. So but yeah, no, I have totally gotten the amalgam and used it against Curator. So I get how you feel, made you look.
And it's awful.
Eh.
More awful when it's the last one surviving and then it knocks you out.
All right, fair. That is fair.
All right, so let's move into our pick 2 options for this week. So we're going to have Edwin Van Cleef up against Yogg Saron. So the average placements of these two heroes are even at 4.08 in the current patch. Yogg Saron has been the more popular choice between the two, with a rate of 59.2%. In comparison, Van Cleef is at 45.9%. So when you're looking at these hero powers, you essentially get like plus stats, one of which is triggered whenever you hire a random minion for Yogg Saron, and then Van Cleef can add on additional stats for every minion that you buy. So think of it kind of like the trigger for the combo for what it is in like base Hearthstone, essentially. So Yogg definitely edges out Van Cleef in regards to like first place finishes. Van Cleef seems to be a little bit more consistent in regards to like say like top 2, top 3. So that's a little bit of a trade-off in that regard. But there's just something about embracing the chaos of the puzzle box that is just so endearing. And, at times it's very hard to pass up. But then on the other hand, if we're talking about scaling potential, there's definitely more to be added to the board if we are talking about Van Cleef over the course of the game. So when we're talking final stats for the Warband, Van Cleef will pull ahead due to his hero power. But the staying power of the Yogg early game does solidify a lot of top 4 finishes. So Ed, when you're looking at these two options, both fairly solid, both are considered to be tier 1. Do you have a preference between Van Cleef and Yogg Saron?
100 times out of 100, I will take Van Cleef. For the simple fact that it just isn't that good late game. Like, and that's my big thing. Is it's just not good late game. And the simple fact that it just it's just too random for me. That's really what it is. Is it's just too random. And it's another one that's probably gonna get nerfed. At least I would not nerfed. In the rankings next week, it will probably get taken down, like taken down a notch, which I'm totally fine with, and I think it should be. Um, but yeah, this is something that I truly think um should not even be an option. Like, I don't get why you would pick Yogg over Van Cleef.
The big thing here, in regards to, let's say, tavern breakpoints, is with Yogg-Saron, he does traditionally level up a turn ahead of where Van Cleef is. So if it's a situation that you find yourself in where you are struggling to kind of get to that point, Yogg-Saron does feel a little bit more enticing in that regard. Um, and like I have done like fairly well with both of these heroes, and I'm pretty sure like their wins for me are even between the two. So I've played quite a bit of both. But if I had to choose, it's more of like a decision on the whim. Like if I'm struggling to get to the end game, obviously I'm gonna choose Yogg to try to get to that point quicker because things just aren't going my way. But if I'm feeling better, if I've been getting to Tavern 5, Tavern 6, finishing with decent stats, then Van Cleef is definitely going to be the direction that I would be leaning towards. But I know a lot of people do like the chaotic presence of Yogg-Saron. Maybe they're just being mind controlled to pick him, Ed. Like, for all we know, that could be happening.
No. Uh, uh, just no. It's people are picking it because you're gonna get those sexy early round picks, and you're gonna do really well. Now it's a matter of, are you gonna do really well after that?
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, looking at this after turn 7, you start dropping down to the coin flip range. So you're going to do good early game, which we I'm not doubting is vital. But you're going to do trash the not trash. You're not going to do as good the rest of the game. And that is really going to screw you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't justify it. Like it's not something I think is good. Now granted, I'm playing Yogg over a lot of like tier 2, tier 3 ones, but if you're giving me the choice between, you know, late game specifically buffing an individual character of my choosing, that's just huge. Like you're talking cleaves, taunts, like those kind of minions, just boosting them up more and more and more and more is just something that is so vital.
Yeah, the one thing that's interesting about Van Cleef is kind of like the decision making at that point of, well, do I try to just secure +3/+3 by just buying 3 random minions, playing them if you have the board space, dump them, and then, adding those stats? Or are you rolling and refreshing the tavern to try to get, like, another triple at that point? Because there's a lot of, like, balancing back and forth in that regard. So that's probably one of the things that really changes in regards to like how the two heroes are played at that point, because Yogg-Saron for the most part will just be rolling to try to get upgrades at that point, rather than just seeing what pops up and just trying to amass different minions.
Yeah, it's and in all honesty, yeah, no, you can really only buy 3 unless you have the room for it. I was just like, well, you buy the 3 minion. No, yeah, you can buy 4 minions, so you can get +4/+4 towards the end game. Which I mean, no, that's being ticky tacky about it, really.
Right.
But that to me is a much bigger benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine like how big that is in regards to I don't know the Divine Shield or Dragon build with what's its name Malagos or Caligos, where you can play, you can play 4 battle cry minions plus give a dragon +4/+4 in one turn. Like that's pretty darn good in my book.
Right.
Um, Beasts, like the Cave Hydra, or something along those lines. Heck, the Divine Shield build is awesome with this. So you can't get um that level of good stats from Yogg. Like Yogg is fun and people love it for the same reason they love playing Reno, because you can pull off those Reddit plays and do something fun, and but you're not gonna that's 1 out of every 10 times you do it. So it's just not even close to me.
Gotcha. And like something I did notice is I was kind of comparing like the average war band, like in regards to like the top compositions between the two, and the stat differential honestly wasn't as big as I was expecting when you factor in Van Cleave's hero power. Um, Either way though, both are really good. I personally tend to play Van Cleave over Yogg-Saron in the majority of the situations. But I traditionally like wouldn't put him higher than like Daryl or Naz Dormu. Those two options I would typically always pick over these two as well. I know
Yeah,
I know your opinion would probably differ, especially with Daryl.
yeah, I would probably take this over Daryl.
Mm-hmm.
um but that's just different play styles.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, like, Daryl is not for everyone. And if Daryl is not for you, it's not gonna be the top choice for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those cards that's just not for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of numbers involved.
Right? And we all know I'm not good with numbers
Yeah.
or unmuting myself.
I was waiting for you to be like, "We're good," and I would have been like, "Oh, don't say that."
No, I'm saying I am average at this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am right there on the average, which you know what I am content with. Like if I'm above 5,000, I'm content.
Right.
I probably could peak at about 6,000, and I couldn't probably do much more than that. And I'm okay with that.
All right. Well, I think it's time that we close out the tavern for tonight. So be sure to ignore Millhouse if you see him in your 4 options or 2 options, because chances are there's better options available for you. In
Mm-hmm.
regards to the heroes. But anyways, so if you guys want to help us out, the best thing to do is to head on over to iTunes and write us a review. Reviews definitely help with visibility in regards to iTunes. It also lets us know how we're doing, and we are open ears. So if you guys want to reach out to us, be it on Discord or social media, please go ahead and do so. And also send us your Blame Celestalon story so we could talk about some of the experiences that you guys have been suffering at the hands of Celestalon. So, Ed, why don't you go ahead and close things out? Let our listeners know how they can contact our show.
Right. So you can email us at taverntalespodcast@gmail.com. We are on Twitter and at taverntaleshs. We do stream live on Twitch at twitch.tv/taverntaleshs, live Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. We do have a Discord, and that's discord.me/OWLN show. You can contact me personally on Twitter at Edinar83 or on Twitch at twitch.tv/Edinar. Totem, where can they find you at?
Well, I'm also on Twitter. That would be at tonallydrunkctr. And when I'm streaming on Twitch, that is at twitch.tv/tonallydrunk, where I'll probably be streaming at some point tonight if I don't get too distracted by all of the mishaps in the NFL draft.
Yes.
I don't know yet. I'm excited either way. I know you are as well.
Uh-huh.
And my food should be here any minute now. So, with that being said, guys, I do want to thank you again for joining us in the tavern for Tavern Tales episode number 14. I've been your host, Totally Drunk, joined as always by my co host, Edinar. Good luck in your recruit in regards to your minions for battle, and we'll see you guys back here next week. Have a good night.
Adios. Peace out.